Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user TruthInfinite8073. Am I the a-hole for wanting to leave my fiance due to her abusive family? I've been dating my fiance for 4 years and have been engaged for 7 months. We are trying to plan out a wedding for roughly fall next year. Her childhood was terrible and abusive, to put it mildly. Her parents were raging narcissists and she was the scapegoat for her 2 brothers. She was abused and thrown out the moment she turned 18. She was, however, a great student and hard worker. So with some scholarships and a part-time job, she has a great career and is pretty independent. The problem is that she still has contact with her family. None of them have changed. Well, actually, something has changed. They have become more financially dependent on her. They enjoy slowly creeping back into her life and emotionally blackmailing her for support or whatever she can do. They're not pleasant about it either. They're rude, smug, and generally enjoy being a nuisance. And my fiance can't say no. No matter the horrible things they say or how they outright try and intimidate her openly. I've always known her family history and have always supported her through the issues with them. But in the last year or so, they've become far more brazen and asinine. They come over to our house more often. They make messes all around the place. Her mother acts like she's the effing stepmother from Cinderella. Her dad drinks all my effing beer and empties out half the fridge. Her brothers stop by occasionally to act as mouthpieces for their parents. They practically trash the place and leave us to clean the mess. And where is my fiance in all of this? Quietly standing in the corner, practically shaken. I'm no fool here. There is legitimate trauma. There's her need to feel loved by them and her hoping they will appreciate her. Before one of you noble commenters states the obvious, she's been in therapy for this for years. I've tried to establish boundaries. For nearly 2 years, I've been trying to push these ass clowns away. But this is her house that she purchased, and no matter of contributions, financial or otherwise, will she let me have a say on who comes into her house. She's been beaten down mentally and emotionally by them for so long, she has told me recently that she wants to earn their approval, how they were right about her, how she needs to do better for them. I've had too many emotional conversations with tears and begging to count, hoping she will take the steps to get better. But she's an adult. I can't force her to do anything. I love her, but I can't help but feel so resentful of what she's doing. It's agonizing watching someone you love, someone who you know deserves so much better, openly destroy themselves for people like her family. It's been painful watching her cry herself to sleep one too many nights because of them. I've tried too many times to help her get out of their clutches, but I have to think of the future. What happens when we have kids? What happens when she is postpartum and invites them over? What happens if there is a medical emergency for either of us? What if our finances get tight and they still demand money? This is the in-law family from hell and I won't be able to avoid them. Tomorrow I'm going to tell her how I want to delay the wedding until firm boundaries are established. If she resents this, I walk. I can't do it anymore. I refuse to watch a slow death like this any further. OP, of course I understand the horrible situation that both you and your fiancé are in, her because of her family and you because she won't do anything to stop them or to set any boundaries. And I think you're absolutely right. Wanting to put a pause on your engagement until boundaries are set is the healthy thing to do. And like you say, if she resents this or fights you on it or just doesn't want to do it, then there's nothing you can do about it and you should walk. These people sound horrible and the work they've done on her is ridiculous. She wants to earn their approval. They're right about her. She needs to be better for them. They leech money and everything else off of her and she still wants to please them. Yeah, she's in it deep. And she's been in therapy for this for years. Well, I don't know what kind of therapist she's going to, but it's definitely not working. OP, all your questions are the right ones to ask. What about the future? So again, OP, no, not the a-hole. You've had this conversation many times and you're just gonna give it one more chance. If it doesn't work out, then you know what to do. And what do you guys think? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section. And now let's check out the community comments. KM Flushing says, not the a-hole. You can't save her if she doesn't want to be saved. Even if she wants to, you'd only be able to help and support. She needs to be the one to enforce the boundaries and hold them, but she doesn't. It's up to you if you want this for life. Have you spoken to her about where you are, that you're on the verge of breaking up with her for this lack of boundaries? No, it's not to manipulate her into choosing you, although some will say that. It's just a statement of fact. She may be willing to sacrifice everything for her family, but you are not. If this is the life you have to look forward to, you don't want it. You need to put yourself and your needs first. Who knows? It may prompt her to open her eyes and put herself first with her family, but likely not. Frankie Smile says, would the two of you be open to couples therapy? Therapy is too often brought up as the ultimate solution to relationship problems, but in this instance, having a neutral third party who is experienced and qualified in the area of couples therapy could be really helpful. Best of luck, and the only a-holes here are her family. And Opie responds, I've hinted at it before, but she hasn't been very receptive. I'm hoping tomorrow I can try and pursue that and not have to make an ultimatum. And Nova Prime 1988 says, I am in this exact situation. My husband's mother is the devil. After 10 years, we have finally gone no contact with her. She has been emotionally abusing and effing him up for years. I tried to stay out of their relationship and support him where I could, but it spilled over. It is incredibly hard to be the partner of someone who is being abused and them not doing anything to actively stop it. Obviously, it is not my husband's fault his mother is abusive, but he refused to put appropriate boundaries in place. Finally, it all came to a head when she attacked us in our home. I called the police on her, demanded my husband get into therapy, and we've gone no contact with her. I told him I would never bring children into this toxic situation if she was still in our lives. Fortunately, he agreed. The last year has been utter bliss. It is horrible being the victim of abuse, but it is also horrible to love a victim of abuse and watch them struggling, not the a-hole. Opie's edit. Talked to her and it went about as well as one could possibly expect. Currently getting myself set up in a hotel for a few days and working on possible long-term plans for moving out. Okay, well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, and from that really short edit, we get that OP did talk to her and it didn't work out. However, we do have 2 updates, so this isn't the end of the story yet. Let's check out the first update now. The night after I made the first post, I had decided that I was going to have a heart-to-heart with my fiancée about her family. However, she came back from work the next day early, and I already was off that day, so I initiated the talk a little sooner than I planned. Essentially, I told her how this arrangement was not suitable. I did not feel comfortable marrying her due to how much involvement in her life her family has, and I certainly did not feel comfortable bringing a child into this world with them. I did not want to tell her to go no contact with them cold turkey, but strict limitations to start with on them coming over and what they can do around the house. I also requested couples therapy before marriage. She wasn't happy. She was just staring angrily at me while I spoke, then started yelling at me when I finished. She told me I don't understand their dynamic and it worked for her. Right, no problem standing up to you, but to them, she can't. I told her that they are abusive users who will bleed her dry and I have never seen them show any decency to her. She told me she just had to work harder for them to appreciate her. I basically yelled at her that a parent's child shouldn't have to beg and plead and work for them to be loved. I finally told her that she sets limits with them or I walk. She was livid, and since I was living in her house, I was kicked out. So, the past few days, I have been staying in a hotel and have had my stuff taken out and put in storage. And frankly, it's been great. I am going to stay with family for a few weeks around mid-July, and after that, I am going to go house searching for myself. I have spent the last couple of days relaxing, catching up on movies and video games I haven't had time for, and could go back from work to a quiet room without her family tearing the place apart. Yesterday, however, things came to a head. We have basically been no contact since she booted me out, but I know every Saturday her family loves to spend the afternoon over and she uses me as a shield from their abuse. However, in a very petty move, I simply kept my phone muted all day and played Disco Elysium. I knew she would call back for help with her family, and at this point, pure resentment was kicking in for her and I wanted nothing to do with her issues. By the end of the night, she had sent me over a dozen texts and finally 2 frantic voicemails begging me to come home. I decided to come over to check up on her. Long story short, she was sobbing in the living room, and when I came to talk to her, she was practically crushing my back, hugging me and sobbing. I gave her time to cool off and asked what happened. Long story short, her parents and brothers came by to get money from her and say horrible crap to her. She wanted to have me come over to help, but I was ignoring her, and when she tried to have one of her friends help out and everyone basically said F that, it all started clicking in for her. She kicked her family out, but not before they said some utterly vile crap to her I won't repeat. She kept apologizing to me and told me over and over to come home. I told her plainly that I had started to build up heavy resentment towards her for some time, and while I loved her and understand it was trauma and not her being outright abusive, there were major issues that we need to address if we were to move forward. 1. She sells the house and moves. We make roughly the same amount of money and we will buy a house together. I am a grown-ass man and I will not live in a house I have no equal agency over. 2. Her family will never step a foot in it. They will never come over. They will be treated by me in a very threatening manner if they try and come in. 3. She gets a new therapist and we start premarital counseling. 4. She never makes me interact with her family. And 5. We will go low contact with her family right now, but make no mistake, we are working towards full no contact on her end. I told her I love her. We have been together for a while now and have beautiful memories together, and I know she is suffering from abuse. But these are non-negotiable, and if she has a problem with any of them, then we have to go our separate ways. She told me she's realized for a while now that her family is toxic and unhealthy. She wants to make changes. She has accepted this, but some of these will take a while to see through. For now, I am going to stay in the hotel until I head back to stay with my family. She is welcome to come over, but I have made it clear her house is not somewhere I want to go. Her and I are both off tomorrow, so we will spend the day here and maybe go out. This is obviously not over yet. Okay, so it seems like OP's fiancé did understand that she needs to do some changes, and apparently she's willing to do so. And as OP said at the end of that one, this is not over yet. So let's move on to the final update to see how this story ends. Despite all intentions of not updating until much later with the hopes of an improved relationship with my fiancé and her establishing boundaries with her toxic family, we are now broken up. Essentially, what happened was after last weekend, where I left her for the time to deal with them herself, she seemed to finally grasp the situation and was open to changes, including boundaries and a possible move. We spent Monday and Tuesday hanging out in my hotel that I was staying in until I went back to my family for a couple of weeks. Then, the other night, she was being very vague with texting when she originally was supposed to come over. She came much later than expected and I knew something was up. She basically unloaded on me how I was abusive, controlling, overly demanding, and unsupportive. It took me 5 effing seconds to figure out she was repeating verbatim some sort of rehearsed speech from her parents. And to be honest, I was so agitated at this point, despite making a huge gamble on her, I decided to be a prick about it. I asked her if her family told her to say this. She said they suggested it to her, but she came up with it herself. Sure. I asked her to explain in detail what I did. She said I was living like a parasite off of her. I reminded her that I'm paying 50-50 for her effing mortgage, 50-50 for utilities and groceries as well. I have my own car I pay for, a job that makes just about as much as hers, unlike her effing leech parents who demand payments on the weekly and raid the kitchen on the weekends. I told her to try again with something better. She looked flustered and said I was trying to isolate her. I kinda smirked like a jackass and told her that I have always supported her many friendships that she has destroyed on her own because no one wants to deal with her family or be used as a shield like me. I was practically demanding to know at this point why she is so hell-bent on destroying her life for these people. She just kinda shouted that I don't understand her family and she's just trying to earn their love back and was basically ranting at this point. It's just so staggering to see up close. I have ventured into a few subreddits to get perspectives, and if you have any familiarity with them, you'll see how people who are victims of abuse by their own family can be so utterly broken by it that it'll wreck their brain to where they truly believe they are the problem and they deserve the abuse. Well, that's how she was. She was utterly broken and didn't want help. She didn't want to get better, she just wanted to get worse. It hit me like a truck, honestly, the realization. I really did feel like a fool for trying, even if it was what I was supposed to do in the first place. She was practically berserk at this point, and I was just mentally exhausted and needed her to leave before someone called the police. She finally left, but I had a few concerned neighbors check on me. Some of her friends are aware as they have messaged me checking on the situation. I told them the truth and that I just needed to be alone to think what to do next right now. They have revealed that she has given them similar rants after they expressed concern for her. One had even heard that she may be possibly at risk of losing her job. She is definitely having some sort of mental break. From my understanding, she is now completely isolated. She is actually sprinting into a horrible lonely life right now. There's nothing I can do for her at this point, and as selfish as it sounds, I'm just glad it's going to be behind me. Well, OP, of course it's sad what's going on with your ex-girlfriend, but as you said, she doesn't want to get help and she doesn't want to get better. And there's nothing you can do about that, just protect yourself. Hopefully someday she does get the help that she needs and she can get rid of her family. But you shouldn't be expected to hang around waiting for that to happen. Now it's time to focus on yourself. So on that note, here's wishing you the best in the future, OP. Take care and thank you for sharing. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user EmbarrassedEye2832. It's my job to deal with it? Sure. I work in public services. It was a new role and I am the first and only one of me. Essentially, this means that my job scope can be pretty broad and I have a lot of fingers in a lot of different pies. I have also gained the reputation of a no-nonsense problem solver. Cannot for the life of me think why. So when people have issues, they tend to come to me. I was busily hashing out a few tasks last week when I get something else slapped onto my plate. A manager of a service we commission with, appropriately named Karen, has apparently been working her way through people because she isn't getting the resolution she wants. So one of the managers in finance wants me to look into this for Karen. Now, a thing to note here is that every April we increase rates along with inflation, but she didn't get it. Thing is, it's out of our hands. The services we commission from her are funded between us and another separate public service, PS2. We pay half and PS2 pays half. But we haven't paid the increase because PS2 hasn't agreed anything yet. What can I say? It's the public sector. I start by telling this finance manager that I can't actually do anything about this because, and he cuts me off saying, "This is your job. It's your department that deals with these contracts, so deal with it. I don't care how, just get her off my back." Now, that's mostly paraphrased except for that last sentence, which he said verbatim, "I don't care how, just get her off my back." I write in chat, "To confirm, I am to deal with this and you do not care how?" And he says, "Yes, for goodness sake." I crack my knuckles and get to work, sending her the following email and CCing in this finance manager and my own manager. "Dear Karen, I apologize for the delay in this inflationary increase for your service. However, as this is jointly funded between ourselves and PS2, we are beholden to their financial timeliness. As PS2 has not yet agreed to the 4.1% increase, we are unable to process it. Regardless of how many individuals you contact, this will remain the case until PS2 see fit to approve. In instances such as these, our recourse should be to head down to the offices of PS2 and begin smacking naughty bottoms, but I fear HR would frown upon such action in these enlightened times. Might I suggest contacting PS2 yourself in order to expedite the process? I'm sure Finance Manager, email finance.manager@myworkplace, would be happy to direct you to the appropriate contact and answer any further questions. Warmest regards, OP. I then immediately got a Teams call from my manager where for 30 seconds all I could hear was laughing, and he asked me what was going on. I sent him the screenshots of that chat messages between myself and the finance manager and relayed the Teams call. My manager told me that it was not, in fact, my job. How odd. And later that day, the finance manager apologized, but also warned me that, in the future, you should probably hold back on the bollock-withering sarcasm. People might not find it amusing. I think I'm hysterical, personally. Smacking naughty bottoms. OP, I also found it funny. That finance manager has no sense of humor. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.